My name is Daniel Whitaker, and I'm 37 years old. For the past 15 years, I've been known as the guy people call when something in their house quits working. Plumbing, electrical, heating, air conditioning. If it breaks, leaks, sparks, or refuses to turn on, I'm usually the one who can get it running again. My job takes me all over the city, day after day, with my toolbox clanking around in the back of my truck and my hands always marked with grease, oil, and grime that never seems to come off all the way, no matter how hard I wash. I never complained about the dirt under my nails or the soreness in my back after a 12-hour shift. To me, that was part of earning a living. Every broken pipe, every bad breaker, every emergency call that came in around 7 at night meant one thing: more money coming in. Money for the mortgage on our 2-story house. Money for Rachel's car payment. Money for the future I thought we were building together. Rachel was my wife. We'd been married for 5 years. I met her 7 years ago at Greg's barbecue. She was wearing a yellow sundress, standing near the patio, laughing at something one of her friends had said. That laugh pulled me in right away. I can still remember it. She had this way of tilting her head when someone talked to her, like she was really listening, like whatever you were saying mattered more than anything else in that moment. With her, I felt noticed. I felt important. I felt seen in a way I hadn't felt before. 2 years later, we were married. Back when we first met, Rachel worked as a receptionist at a dental office. But after the wedding, we talked it over and decided she would stay home for a while. Just until we figure things out, she told me. That was 5 years ago. The dental office had replaced her a long time ago, and Rachel had gotten comfortable with her new routine. She went to yoga classes, had lunch with her friend Natalie, and took care of what she liked to call the household. We didn't have children yet. Someday, we always said. Someday when things were steadier. Someday when I had more money saved. Someday when the timing finally felt right. Our life had settled into a rhythm that felt normal, maybe even comfortable. On Friday nights, we ordered Chinese food and watched whatever show we were working through on Netflix. Sunday mornings were for coffee and the newspaper. She read the lifestyle section while I checked the sports scores. On Saturdays, we usually went grocery shopping together. We were still intimate maybe twice a week. Every summer, we took a simple beach vacation. It wasn't some perfect movie kind of life. It wasn't fancy or exciting. But it was ours. At least, that's what I believed. Lately, though, something had changed. Rachel was on her phone more than usual, and whenever I walked near her, she would tilt the screen away like she didn't want me seeing it. She had also started leaving the house more often. Simple errands somehow stretched into 3-hour trips. Visits with Natalie lasted late into the evening. Whenever I asked how her day had been, her answers were short, blurry, and distracted, like she was only half there with me. She had also picked up a new habit that bothered me more than I wanted to admit. As soon as she came home, she would head straight for the shower, even if she claimed she had only been at the mall. One night last week, while we were eating dinner, I finally asked her, "You okay?" She looked up from her plate, where she had been pushing a piece of chicken around with her fork. "Of course," she said. "Why?" Her voice sounded a little too cheerful, too polished. "You just seem distant," I told her. "I'm fine, Daniel," she said, forcing a smile. But the smile didn't touch her eyes. "I'm just tired." I tried to convince myself I was making something out of nothing. People always say marriage has good seasons and bad seasons. Maybe this was just one of those stretches. Maybe Rachel was bored. Maybe she needed something of her own, again, like a hobby or even a part-time job. Maybe I hadn't been paying enough attention. Maybe I should plan something special for our anniversary next month and remind her that we were still us. Then my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter and pulled me out of my thoughts. But it was a repair call from the Marriott downtown. They were having water pressure problems in the hotel kitchen. "I've got a job," I said, grabbing my jacket from the chair. "Big one at the hotel. I'll probably be gone most of the afternoon." Rachel barely lifted her eyes from her phone. "Okay," she murmured. "Have a good day." I paused at the door and looked back at her. She was locked onto whatever was on that screen, her thumb moving up and down like she had forgotten I was even in the room. The morning light hit her hair just right, and for a second, I remembered exactly why I had fallen in love with her. So, I swallowed the uneasy feeling, sitting heavy in my chest, turned away, and left the house. I had no clue that walking into that hotel lobby would be the last moment I would ever trust my wife again. The Marriott kitchen was in rough shape. The sous chef took me through the prep area and showed me the stations that were causing trouble. Water was barely coming out of the faucets, more like a weak trickle than anything useful. After checking the system, I found the problem pretty quickly. The main valve regulator had gone bad, probably from years of heavy use and simple old age. If I wanted to replace it the right way, the job was going to take me at least 2 hours. I had been working for around 45 minutes, fighting with one connection that absolutely refused to come loose, when I finally decided I needed a smoke break. My back was screaming from being hunched under that industrial sink, and my hands had gone half numb from squeezing the wrench so hard. I walked out through the loading dock and stepped into the alley beside the hotel. That first drag felt good. I leaned back against the brick wall, let the nicotine settle into my system, and tried to let my mind go blank for a minute. I wasn't thinking about anything important. Maybe I was wondering what I should grab for lunch. Maybe I was thinking about whether the Ravens had any real chance that season. Then a black BMW pulled up near the side entrance of the hotel. At first I barely paid attention. Then the passenger door opened, and Rachel stepped out. My cigarette stopped halfway to my mouth. For a second, I honestly thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. She was wearing the black dress I had bought her for Christmas, the one she had told me was too nice for ordinary days. Her hair was done too, not thrown together, not casual, done. She looked like she had gotten ready for someone. She was laughing at something the driver had said, and that sound hit me harder than any punch could have. Then the driver got out. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with the kind of body a man gets when he spends more time in a gym than doing actual work. He looked like he was in his early 30s. Perfect haircut, fitted polo shirt, arms on display like he wanted the whole world to notice them. He walked around the front of the car and reached for Rachel's hand, and she gave it to him. My wife gave him her hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. Then she leaned into him as they started walking toward the entrance, her body pressed against his side like she belonged there. He said something else and she laughed again. Not the polite laugh she had been giving me lately. That real laugh. That deep, warm, genuine laugh I hadn't heard from her in months. Then his hand moved to the small of her back. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't hesitant. I knew the way Rachel moved around people she barely knew, and I knew the way she moved around someone she wanted close. That wasn't the body language of cousins. That wasn't two people planning a party. That was intimacy. That was comfort. That was an affair. Every part of me wanted to storm into that hotel. I wanted to find out what room they were going to. I wanted to drag her out and make her look me in the eye. I wanted to put my hands on that pretty boy and make him understand exactly what he had stepped into. But something colder inside me stopped me. Some part of me knew that if I confronted her right then, she would lie. She would twist it around on me. She would tell me I was imagining things. She would say I was jealous, insecure, paranoid. Without proof, it would be my word against hers. And even if she broke down and admitted something, then what? She would cry. She would beg. She would swear it meant nothing. She would promise it would never happen again. She would try to work me the same way she had apparently been working me for God only knew how long. No, I couldn't let that happen. I had to be smarter than my anger. So, I went back inside and finished the job. My body worked on its own after that. Muscle memory took over while my mind kept replaying what I had just seen. Every turn of the wrench felt automatic. Every connection I tightened felt distant and mechanical, like I wasn't even fully there. When I finished, the sous chef thanked me. I have no idea what I said back to him. The drive home felt like a blur. Of course, when I got there, the house was empty. There was a note sitting on the kitchen counter in Rachel's handwriting, cheerful and casual, like nothing in the world was wrong. At Natalie's for the day. Be back for dinner. Love you. I stared at those words for a long time. The lie came so easily to her. That was what made my stomach turn the most. How many times had she left me notes like that? How many times had Natalie's house really meant a hotel room with Mr. BMW? I sat down at the kitchen table and kept staring at that note. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't punch a wall or smash a plate. Instead, I made a decision. Rachel thought she was clever. She thought I was too trusting to ever catch on. Too simple. Too busy working with my hands to notice what was happening right in front of me. But she was wrong. I wasn't going to confront her. I wasn't going to give her time to build a defense, rehearse her lies, or make me look like the crazy one. I was going to collect evidence. I was going to protect everything I had worked for. And when the right moment came, I was going to make sure she felt the full weight of what she had done. She believed I would never find out. What she didn't know was that I was about to become the worst mistake she had ever made. The next morning, I called Caleb Morrison. Caleb was a client of mine. I had remodeled his bathroom the year before, and during that job, he had told me a little about his own divorce. Caught my ex with her personal trainer, he had said back then. Thank God I hired Patricia first. She was the one who saved me in court. Patricia Langley had her office tucked away above a nail salon in one of those plain little buildings you could pass every day and never give a second look. She was somewhere in her 50s, with gray hair pulled tight into a practical bun, and she wore an old blazer that looked like it had been through a lot of hard days. But when she shook my hand, her grip was strong, and her eyes told me right away that she didn't miss much. Caleb told me you're good at what you do, she said, motioning for me to take a seat. I need proof that my wife is cheating on me, I said without softening it. There was no reason to ease into it or pretend it was something else. Patricia reached for a legal pad and clicked her pen. Start from the beginning, she said. So I did. I told her about the distance between us, the way Rachel guarded her phone, the long stretches of time when she was gone, and finally, what I had seen the day before at the Marriott. Patricia wrote everything down without making faces, without judging me, only stopping now and then to ask me to explain something a little more clearly. When I was done, she sat back and studied me for a second. The man you saw yesterday, she asked, can you describe him? I gave her the best description I could. Patricia picked up a tablet and started searching. After a few minutes, she turned the screen toward me and showed me a Facebook page for Elite Fitness. And there he was, smiling in one of the staff photos. Ethan Walker, personal trainer. That's him, I said, feeling my jaw tighten. I want everything, I told her. Pictures, videos, dates, times, locations. I need proof strong enough to stand up in court. Patricia didn't blink. That's exactly what I do, she said. Give me 3 weeks. Those 3 weeks felt longer than any 3 weeks of my life. I went to work like normal. I came home like normal. I ate dinner with Rachel, watched television with Rachel, and slept beside Rachel in the same bed. Every ordinary moment felt like torture, but I never let it show. I played the part of a husband who didn't know anything. You've seemed happier lately, Rachel said one night while she was curled up against me on the couch. I'm just grateful, I said, kissing the top of her head. Her hair smelled like a shampoo I didn't recognize. Grateful for what we have, I added. She pressed herself closer to me. Me too, she murmured, sounding perfectly content. Patricia sent me updates through an encrypted app. On Tuesday, Rachel met Ethan at a Comfort Inn off Route 40 and stayed there for 2 hours. On Thursday, they had lunch at an Italian restaurant downtown, where they kept touching each other across the table. On Saturday, they went shopping together at the mall, and Ethan bought her lingerie at Victoria's Secret. The pictures were sharp, clear, time-stamped, and impossible to explain away. There was Rachel laughing at something Ethan had said. There was Ethan with his hand on her ass while they walked. There were the two of them kissing inside his car. Every photo cut into me, but I forced myself to look at all of them. I needed that anger. It kept my head clear. At the same time, I started protecting myself. I opened a new bank account at a different bank and began moving small amounts of money out of our joint savings. Not enough for Rachel to notice right away, but enough that it would make a difference when the time came. I took pictures of every important document in our filing cabinet, including the mortgage papers, insurance policies, and investment statements. I also copied her credit card statements and marked every suspicious charge I could find, especially hotels, restaurants, and lingerie stores. One evening, Rachel came home late and claimed traffic from Natalie's house had held her up, but I could smell him on her. It was that loud, aggressive cologne men like Ethan wore when they wanted the world to know they had entered the room. Rachel went straight to the shower, humming softly like nothing was wrong. I sat on our bed and listened to the water running, and I realized I didn't feel anything. The man who would have been crushed by her betrayal was already gone. In his place was someone colder, someone harder, someone patient. Exactly 3 weeks after I first walked into Patricia's office, she handed me a thick manila envelope. "It's all in there," she said. 53 photos, 4 videos of them going in and out of hotels, receipts, and even a few text messages I was able to get through technical methods you don't need to ask about. I sat in my truck and went through the envelope. The evidence covered 4 months. 4 months. The affair had been going on for 4 damn months. While I was out repairing other people's homes, Ethan had been standing in the middle of mine, at least in every way that mattered. While I was working 12-hour days and wearing myself down, Rachel was pretending to be a loyal wife to me while giving that life to another man. Then I reached the last photo. It showed Rachel and Ethan standing at the door of a hotel room. Her hand was resting on his chest, and both of them were smiling like they didn't have a problem in the world. That was it. I had everything I needed. Now I just needed a lawyer, ruthless enough to help me tear her life apart. Charles Mercer's office was on the top floor of a downtown building, the kind of place made of glass, leather, and quiet intimidation. The moment I walked in, I knew he was exactly the kind of man I'd been hoping to find. He looked to be in his mid-50s, dressed in an expensive suit, with cold eyes that made me think he had ruined plenty of people in court and slept just fine afterward. "Caleb Morrison sent me," I said as I lowered myself into the chair across from Mercer's oversized desk. A small smile touched Mercer's face. "Caleb's case was especially enjoyable," he said. "His ex-wife ended up in a studio apartment, working 2 jobs just to stay afloat. So, tell me, Mr. Whitaker, what can I do for you?" I handed him the envelope Patricia had given me. He took his time with it. For about 30 minutes, he went through every photo, every receipt, every note, and every piece of evidence, stopping now and then to write something down on a legal pad. When he finally finished, he leaned back in his chair with the look of a shark that had just smelled blood in the water. "This is thorough," he said. "Very thorough. Adultery, deception, financial misconduct. She's been using marital money to support the affair. The lingerie, the hotel rooms, the dinners. We can make an argument for abandonment of marital duties. With evidence this strong, especially in Maryland, she may walk away with nothing." "I want more than nothing," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I want her to understand exactly what she threw away." Mercer's smile grew wider. "Then we serve her your way," he said. "Maximum impact. When did you have in mind?" "Friday night," I told him. "That's our movie night. It's been our weekly tradition for years. She'll be relaxed, comfortable, and completely unprepared." "Perfect," he said. "The process server can be there around 8. You'll be home." "I wouldn't miss it," I said. We spent the next hour going over the plan. Asset protection, temporary support, possible custody issues if kids were involved, every legal angle that might come up. Mercer thought through everything, right down to the small details I would have never considered on my own. I was driving home when my phone rang. It was Rachel. "Hey babe," she said, sounding excited. "Can you come home? I have something to tell you." "I'm on my way," I said, keeping my voice normal. When I walked in, she was waiting in the living room, almost glowing with excitement. The second she saw me, she jumped up and wrapped her arms around me. "Daniel, I'm pregnant," she said, barely able to get the words out. It felt like somebody had swung a sledgehammer straight into my chest. I pulled back so I could look at her. She was crying, but they looked like happy tears. Then she brought a pregnancy test out from behind her back and held it up for me to see. 2 pink lines. "We're going to be parents," she said, taking my hand and pressing it gently against her still flat stomach. Isn't this amazing? My mind started working fast. When was the last time we had been together like that? 3 weeks ago? Maybe 4? And how long had she been sleeping with Ethan? 4 months. The timing was too close. There was no way to know whose baby it was without a paternity test. "This is... wow," I said, forcing a smile onto my face. "When did you find out?" "Just today," she said, almost bursting with excitement. "I've been feeling sick in the morning, so I bought a test. I wanted to surprise you." I hugged her again, mostly so she couldn't see my face. Was this part of some plan? Did she know I had found out? Was this her way of protecting herself? Getting pregnant so I'd be trapped no matter what? Or was she honestly so lost in her own lies that she didn't know whose baby she might be carrying? "We should celebrate," I said, pulling away from her. "Let me get some champagne. Actually, wait, you can't drink. Sparkling cider?" "That's sweet," she said, smiling like her whole world was perfect. "I'm going to call Natalie." While she talked excitedly on the phone, I stepped into the kitchen and texted Mercer. "She's pregnant. What does this change?" His reply came fast. "Nothing. Paternity gets established after birth. If the child isn't yours, it strengthens the abandonment case. If the child is yours, we deal with custody. Stay the course." I stood in the kitchen and watched Rachel from a distance. She was smiling, animated, already resting one hand on her stomach like she had slipped fully into the role of expectant mother. She was either the best actress I had ever seen, or she was completely out of touch with reality. In the end, it didn't matter. She thought a baby might save her. She had no idea the ending had already been written. Friday arrived with a heavy sense of finality hanging over it. I moved through my workday like a man walking through fog, controlled on the outside and burning underneath. I fixed a garbage disposal in Riverside, then replaced a water heater in Canton. Just regular jobs on what would turn out to be the last regular day of my marriage. I got home at 6. Rachel had made lasagna, my favorite. She was in the kitchen humming to herself, wearing an apron over her clothes, looking like the picture of a perfect wife. The irony was almost too much. "Smells great," I said, kissing her on the cheek. She didn't pull away from me anymore. That early guilt she used to carry was gone. She had grown comfortable inside her own lies. We sat down for dinner and talked about baby names like we were any normal married couple planning a future. "I like something traditional," she said. "Adam if it's a boy," she said with hopeful eyes. "Sophie if it's a girl." "Sure," I said, nodding like I was actually part of the dream she was building. "Whatever you think is best." She had already made a Pinterest board full of nursery ideas. She sat there showing me pictures on her phone, scrolling through cribs, changing tables, wall colors, and little decorations like we were planning the happiest chapter of our lives. "We should turn the spare room into the nursery," she said. "I know you keep storage stuff in there, but we can clean it out." "Sounds good," I said, keeping my voice neutral. After dinner, we moved to the couch for our usual Friday movie night. Rachel picked a romantic comedy and curled up beside me, tucking her feet under a blanket. One of her hands rested on her stomach, like that had already become part of who she was after only 2 days of knowing. I wondered if she touched her stomach that way around Ethan. Had she told him about the baby? Did he know there was a chance he might be the father? At 7:45, the doorbell rang. Rachel frowned and looked toward the hallway. "Who could that be?" "I'll get it," I said, standing up slowly. The man at the door was thin, probably in his 40s, wearing a wrinkled suit and holding a manila envelope. He had the tired look of someone who had delivered bad news to strangers more times than he could count. Whitaker residence? He asked in a professional tone. Yes, I said. I'm looking for Rachel Whitaker, he replied. Rachel stepped into the hallway behind me. What's going on? She asked, her voice already nervous. The man looked past my shoulder. Rachel Whitaker. Yes, she said quietly, suddenly unsure of herself. He handed her the envelope. You've been served, he said flatly. Have a good evening. Then he turned and walked away like this was just another stop on his list. Rachel stood there holding the envelope with both hands, and I could see them trembling. She looked at me, then down at the papers, then back at me again. Daniel, she asked, her voice shaking, what is this? Open it, I said, stepping back into the living room. She followed me in and tore the envelope open. I watched her face while she read the divorce petition. The color disappeared from her cheeks. Her mouth parted slightly, and for once, she had nothing ready to say. The papers laid everything out. Dates, times, locations. Patricia's evidence was described in detail. 4 months of lies, written out in clean legal language. Daniel, she whispered, her voice breaking. This isn't... I can explain. No, I said, cutting her off with a cold, flat voice. You can't. The papers slipped from her hands and scattered across the floor. She dropped to her knees, grabbing at them while tears poured down her face. It's not what you think, she pleaded. Ethan means nothing to me. It just happened. I was lonely. You were always working. 4 months, Rachel, I said sharply. You were with him for 4 months while I was out working to pay for this house, your car, your yoga classes, your shopping trips, all of it. Now she was sobbing hard, the kind of crying that twisted her face and streaked her makeup. Please, Daniel, she begged. Please, the baby. Think about the baby. We'll establish paternity after it's born, I said coldly. If the baby is mine, we'll arrange custody. If it's Ethan's, I let the rest hang in the air. It's yours, she screamed. I know it's yours. How? I asked. How could you possibly know that? You've been sleeping with both of us. That broke whatever strength she had left. She collapsed fully onto the floor and curled in on herself. I'm sorry, she wailed. I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. He paid attention to me. He made me feel wanted. And I didn't, I asked. You were always tired, she cried. Always working. We never did anything exciting anymore. So, your answer was to sleep with a personal trainer? I said. That was your solution? I'll end it, she promised in a panic, looking up at me with swollen red eyes. I'll never see him again. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. It's over, Rachel, I said, and there was no softness left in my voice. You have 72 hours to leave this house. Take your clothes and your personal belongings. Nothing else. She stared at me like she didn't understand. The house is in my name, I continued. The car is in my name. Your credit cards are canceled as of tonight. You can't do this, she said, pushing herself to her feet as anger started to cut through the tears. I'm pregnant. You can't just throw me out. Watch me, I said. My voice was ice. Ethan can take care of you now, or Natalie, or your parents. I don't care where you go, I told her, but you're not staying here. She tried to move toward me with one hand reaching out, like touching me might somehow change what was happening. I stepped back before she could get close. Don't touch me, I warned her. Don't ever put your hands on me again. Her phone started ringing. Natalie's name lit up on the screen. Of course it was Natalie. Of course she knew. She had been helping Rachel hide this for months. Answer it, I said. Tell her you need somewhere to stay. Rachel stood there with the phone ringing in her hand, staring at me like I had turned into someone she didn't recognize. Maybe I had. The Daniel who might have forgiven her was gone. The Daniel who would have begged to understand, who would have tried to save the marriage, who would have blamed himself just enough to let her back in, didn't exist anymore. I'm going to a hotel, I said. Then I walked to the coat closet and pulled out the bag I had packed earlier and hidden there. When I come back Monday, you'd better be gone. If you're still here, I'll have the sheriff remove you. Daniel, please, she started again. But I didn't stay to hear it. I walked out and shut the door behind me, leaving her sobbing on the other side. As I drove away, I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel peace. I didn't even feel regret. All I felt was a cold, empty kind of vindication. Rachel was shattered, but I wasn't finished, because Ethan still thought he could walk away from this untouched. He was wrong. I knew Ethan's routine, because Patricia had done her job well. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, he worked until 10 at Elite Fitness. He always parked his red Mustang in the back lot, and when he left, he cut through the alley to get to the main street. That alley didn't have cameras. I had already checked. The first person I called was Brian. Brian and I had worked together at a construction company before I started taking jobs on my own. He had done 2 tours in Afghanistan, and when he came back, something in him had changed. He was quieter after that, harder, the kind of man who always seemed ready for trouble before trouble even showed up. When I told him what I needed, he didn't ask for a long explanation. He only asked when and where. Joey was my second call. He had been fired from 3 different construction jobs for fighting, but he was loyal to people who treated him right. I had given him under-the-table work when nobody else wanted to take a chance on him, and he never forgot that. "Somebody hurt you?" Joey asked after I explained. "Somebody destroyed my marriage," I said. "I'm in," he replied without hesitating. Tuesday night was cold and clear. We met 2 blocks from the gym at 9:30, all of us dressed in dark clothes with ski masks tucked into our pockets. I had bought 3 burner phones from 3 different stores and paid cash for every one of them. No trail. "Remember," I told them, "we hurt him, but we don't kill him. I want him alive. I want him remembering this for the rest of his life." Brian pulled on a pair of leather gloves and gave me a short nod. "Understood," he said. We took our positions in the alley. Brian stayed close to the parking lot entrance. Joey waited beside a dumpster halfway down. I stood near the street exit. At 10:07, Ethan came out through the gym's back door with a gym bag over his shoulder, whistling some pop song like he didn't have a care in the world. Brian moved first. He was quiet and fast, and before Ethan even knew what was happening, Brian swept his legs out from under him. Ethan hit the ground hard, and his gym bag flew across the pavement. Before he could shout, Joey was already on him, driving him face first into the brick wall. Blood poured from Ethan's nose. I walked over slowly, then pulled my mask up just enough for him to see my face in the dim alley light. "Remember me?" I asked. Ethan's eyes widened as recognition hit him, followed by fear. "Oh man," he stammered. "Look, I didn't know she was—" Brian punched him in the ribs before he could finish. The impact folded Ethan over and stole the rest of his excuse. "You knew she was married," I said coldly. "You saw the ring. You met her at the gym while she was wearing her wedding ring." "Please," Ethan gasped. I picked up the aluminum bat Joey had brought. "For 4 months you were sleeping with my wife in hotel rooms paid for with money I earned," I said. "While I was out working, you were in bed with her." "She came on to me," Ethan cried, desperate now. "She told me you 2 were getting divorced." "Lie," I said. Then I brought the bat down on his left knee. The crack echoed through the alley. Ethan screamed in a way I had never heard from another man before, raw and animal. Brian clamped a gloved hand over Ethan's mouth to muffle the sound. I hit his other knee next. Then I brought the bat down on his left hand, the hand he had used to touch my wife. The bones broke under the force. When Brian finally moved his hand away, Ethan was whimpering. "Stop," he begged. "Please stop." "We're done when I say we're done," I told him. Joey stepped in and kicked him in the ribs again and again. Ethan curled up on the ground like a wounded animal, sobbing, bleeding, and completely broken. I crouched down beside him so he could hear every word clearly. "You're going to tell the police you got mugged," I said. "You didn't see any faces. You don't remember anything useful. And if you say my name, or even think about telling anyone what really happened, we'll come back." I leaned closer. "And next time, we won't stop. Do you understand me?" Ethan nodded over and over, his face covered in tears, blood, and snot. Your phone, I said. Joey searched Ethan's pocket, found it, and handed it to me. I set the phone on the pavement, just far enough away that Ethan couldn't reach it right away. You can call for help after we're gone, I told him. That should give you a few minutes to think about the choices you've made. Then we left him there in the alley, bleeding and broken. The walk back to our cars was quiet. Brian didn't say anything. Joey didn't either. Nobody asked questions. Nobody made jokes. Nobody tried to explain what had just happened. Some things didn't need words. When I got home, the house was dark. Rachel's car was gone. She had actually left. I went straight to the shower and scrubbed every trace of the night off my skin. After that, I took the clothes I'd been wearing, along with the burner phone, out to the backyard fire pit and burned everything. Ethan spent 4 days in the hospital. Both of his knees needed surgery. His hand required pins and reconstruction. He had 3 broken ribs, internal bruising, and a concussion. When the police questioned him, he told them he had been mugged by 3 men. He said he never saw their faces and couldn't remember any real details. The investigation went nowhere. He lost his job at Elite Fitness, too. Hard to train clients when you can't even demonstrate the exercises anymore. Word got around that he had been sleeping with married women and that karma had finally found him. His Instagram, which used to be packed with workout clips and motivational quotes, went silent. Rachel paid her price. Ethan paid his. Now I had to figure out whether I could live with the man I had become. 6 months later, my life has settled into something that feels familiar, even if I still don't fully trust it. The divorce was finalized 3 months ago. Rachel fought it at first. She used her parents' money to hire a lawyer and tried to paint me as emotionally abusive, claiming I had abandoned her. But Patricia's evidence was too strong, and Mercer showed no mercy in court. The paternity results came back 2 weeks after the baby was born. It was a boy. She named him Adam. He wasn't mine. Ethan was the father. When that came out in court, the judge actually let out a short laugh, like he couldn't believe Rachel had been bold enough to try what she tried. She got nothing in the settlement. Absolutely nothing. Last I heard, she was working at a Target in Glen Burnie and living in a 1-bedroom apartment with the baby. Her parents help when they can, but they're on a fixed income, so there's only so much they can do. Ethan pays a small amount of child support from his disability checks. Turns out, permanent damage to both knees doesn't leave a man with many job options. He moved back to Ohio to live with his parents, and now he walks with a cane he'll probably need for the rest of his life. Natalie doesn't speak to Rachel anymore either. It's funny how fast certain friends disappear once you stop being useful to them. The house feels different now. I replaced all the bedroom furniture, I painted the walls, I even ripped out the carpet and put in hardwood floors. It felt like I was trying to chase ghosts out of every corner. Some nights I still catch myself listening for the garage door, waiting for Rachel to come home from one of her little errands. But she never does. The silence is peaceful, and at the same time, it still unsettles me. Work has been the thing that kept me grounded. I hired 2 men, widened my service area, and even landed a contract with a property management company for regular maintenance work. Whitaker Repair Services is a real business now. I have a professional website, printed business cards, and a wrapped truck with my logo on the side. I'm earning more money than I ever made before, and the best part is that every bit of it belongs to me. I've gone on a few dates since then, but nothing has turned into anything serious. There's a bartender at the place I usually go who has made it pretty obvious she's interested in me. She's attractive, funny, and as far as I can tell, she doesn't have some hidden motive. But I still can't make myself take that step. When trust gets broken the way mine was, it doesn't just put itself back together because someone new smiles at you. Some nights, when it's late and I'm sitting alone with a beer in my hand, I think about what happened in that alley. I ask myself if I crossed a line. I wonder if I went too far. Then I remember the 4 months of lies. I remember how casually Rachel betrayed me, how easily she looked me in the face and played the part of my wife while living another life behind my back. I remember the way she looked at Ethan the same way she used to look at me. And when those memories come back, the guilt never lasts long. My lawyer called me last week. Rachel had contacted him, wanting to know if I would reconsider things, if maybe we could sit down and talk about getting back together. Mercer actually laughed while telling me, like it was the funniest thing he had heard all year. I told him to remind her that she had no legal reason to contact me anymore, unless it involved something from the divorce settlement, and that settlement was already finished. I'm 38 now. That's not old, but it's not exactly young either. I have a house that will be paid off in 5 years, a business that keeps growing, and a hard-earned lesson about what people are capable of when they believe nobody will ever catch them. I don't regret destroying them. Not really. They made their choices in those hotel rooms. Ethan made his choices when he went after another man's wife. Rachel made hers every time she lied to me and walked back through my front door, like nothing had happened. All I did was make sure those choices came with consequences they couldn't run from. Rachel wanted excitement. She wanted something more thrilling than her boring husband who worked long days and paid the bills. Now she has the excitement of raising a child alone while struggling to get by. Ethan wanted to play games with a married woman. Now he gets to spend the rest of his life explaining why he walks with a limp. Am I happy? No, not yet. Maybe I'll never be happy in the same easy way I was before. But I am free. Free from lies. Free from betrayal. Free from the crushing weight of a marriage that was rotting underneath while I was too blind to see it. And sometimes, freedom is the only revenge that truly matters. Sometimes freedom is enough. And that brings us to the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content to more people. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It really helps me keep making more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.